Hi, everybody. Today, the subject is how to care for elderly parents who aren't capable of taking care of themselves. I received a caregiver survey through my website, PamelaDWilson.com, from a caregiver expressing concern that a parent had a health event and they have memory loss and they really do need more care, but the parent is refusing. Add to this that there is a step parent who has been trying to convince their spouse that they need care or care needs to come into the home or they need to move to a care community, and the sick spouse is refusing. So this child is looking at this situation saying, oh my gosh, my parents are just refusing to help themselves. They are not capable of caring for themselves. And what am I going to do? Plus, let's add a wrinkle to this. The step parent is moving out of the house, leaving this daughter to care for the other parent who's still refusing. And this caregiver lives 3 hours away. So what a mess. I'm Pamela D. Wilson. My website is PamelaDWilson.com. On there, a lot of hope, help, support for caregivers and aging adults. You can also fill out a caregiver survey and ask questions for these videos. Go to the Contact Me button and fill out the survey, and I will receive a copy. So what do you do if you are that spousal caregiver? Maybe it's a second marriage. You can't be the caregiver anymore because of physical issues, or maybe you're equally as old. Maybe you're 90 years old caring for a 95-year-old spouse. And honestly, you just can't do it anymore. Or you are the child of parents in this situation. And we'll talk about two paths. We'll talk about dementia and memory loss, and then what do you do with situations where parents may just appear to be stubborn? Okay? So the first point that I want to make is that aging care or geriatric care is really a specialty. I've spoken to a lot of caregivers who have gone to see a general counselor who really wasn't helpful because the counselor didn't know anything about the aging field or healthcare or dealing with doctors or insurance companies or dementia or anything like that. Or in a lot of cases, caregivers have gone to a general agency trying to get help, and that really didn't result in the answers to the questions that they had. So above all, if you're in a challenging caregiving situation, my first recommendation is to find an expert that you can talk to locally or somebody nationally over the phone. You can always contact me for a telephone consultation. There's a form on my website that you can fill out at PamelaDWilson.com on the Contact Me page. Now, the second thing to consider is while many individuals feel that they have no choice to be the caregiver because there's this duty to family and responsibility, I want to make it very clear that the responsibility of caregiving is a choice. Now, if you don't feel that it's a choice for you, that's okay. But if you are on the other side and you're like, this caregiving thing, I've done it, I can't do it anymore, that's okay too. Because my belief about caregiving is that unless you are living in somebody else's shoes, going through the day-to-day challenge, there should be no judgment of another person who decides to be that caregiver or who decides they cannot be that caregiver. Because unless you're living in that situation, those judgments and those decisions are not yours to make. So let's start talking about memory loss. Memory loss. Dementia, Alzheimer's, whether it's associated with Parkinson's disease, maybe multiple sclerosis, maybe there was a car accident and there's a brain injury. Memory loss is like having a broken brain. It makes it eventually impossible for individuals to understand the consequences of their health diagnoses, their care needs, and to evaluate and make good decisions, which is the point where this caregiver is having challenges with one of her parents who is going through this. Now, if this is caught early enough, right, and there are care discussions in the family about what to do and what's the best case and what do I want if I'm that person with memory loss, and you get all your legal documents done, then that's a different story because maybe there is a plan in place. But for most families, unfortunately, there's not a plan. Because if you're the adult child who has moved away from your parents and you don't see them on a regular basis, and they're going on with their lives and they're not sharing what's going on with their children like many older parents don't. All of a sudden, bam, you got a health emergency and you're thrown in the middle of it and you're trying to figure out what the heck to do. So at that point, if your parents didn't do their financial planning or their legal planning, if there's no medical or financial power of attorney documents or no directives about what they want, and your parents are arguing and they really just can't manage any of this, then in that case, it may be time to look at guardianship. And there's a lot of detail to this. So rather than go into it here in this video, I'm going to direct you to my online course. The link is below. It's an online guardian webinar on my website, which actually plays here, the video plays here on YouTube, where you can learn about options to care for parents who have memory loss, who are resisting and refusing care. Now let's get into the other complication, which is a scenario where your parents have nothing wrong up here. They are totally in their right mind, but they are simply refusing to discuss, consider, or make any decisions about where they live or their care situation. Now, let's be honest. For anybody at any point in your life, the idea of uprooting your life to sell your home and all the belongings and move somewhere else to receive care, that's a lot to think about. And it also involves a lot of unknowns and a lot of risks and a lot of, what if we make a bad decision? What if something unexpected happens? What if I move and I don't like it, right? There's all this uncertainty. And honestly, if you're 80 or 85 or 90, that alone can put you in a position of just not wanting to change your situation, not wanting to make a decision. And then add to it that your parents, who are this age, have been living on all their financial resources, right? They may worry that they don't have enough money to pay for any of this. Because when you retire at 65 and you think you're going to have this great life, and maybe you do for a portion of that, right? But 20 or 30 years later, you're 85 or 90 or 95, and you're on a fixed income and you have a lot of health issues and you don't feel well all the time. That isn't always something that you want to share with your children. Like, gosh, kids, we didn't do a great plan. We don't know what's involved. And now we have all these problems and we're relying on you to fix them for us. Or we're just not going to do anything about it. And whatever happens, happens, right? I talk to a lot of older parents who say, well, when I'm older, my kids will just take care of me. And I always ask them, I say, well, have you talked to your kids about that? And they're like, well, why would I do that? When it happens, it happens. Not a great position to put your children in. And if you're the kids, you know that that is not a great position to be in. So as a caregiver, it's important to understand that aging parents who are not capable of taking care of themselves, in addition to being a little bit stubborn, may be hesitant to make any decisions for this whole list of reasons that they're not even sharing with you. Maybe they have money problems. Maybe they don't feel well. Maybe there's relationship issues between your parents that they've never shared with you. So until you can understand what those objections are and what those reasons really are, it's impossible for you to do anything about the situation. And then let's add health problems on the top of it. So if you are a caregiver and you've never had a health scare that really just sapped all your energy or put you in the hospital for a week or two, it's very difficult to be empathetic and put yourself in the mind space of another person who now has all these additional worries that they're thinking about regarding health and their ability to function every day. So for this and a lot of the reasons that I talked about before, it's important to seek outside help if you have tried to have these conversations with your aging parents to do something or to take action about their care or to make a decision, especially if they're simply refusing and you've tried to talk to them about it and it's getting nowhere. It's falling on deaf ears, right? Because what really has to happen is there has to be an understanding about the health of your aging parents. And the medications they take and what their health is going to look like in 6 months or 12 months from now and what they can do today and what they're not going to be able to do tomorrow. And can they manage and how much time of yours do they need? How much help do they need? What money is there to pay for care? How do you plan for all of this financial part of paying for care and then the legal part of having somebody to make decisions for you if you can and when you can? Now, sometimes parents look at their children as not having the knowledge or the experience to talk about all this, or they may not trust you for some reason, right? They may feel like you want to put them away, and maybe you do. Maybe that's what has to happen. But these are conversations that have to have. So geriatric care manager like myself, an elder care consultant, can help you initiate these discussions or actually have the discussion with you and the family, you and your parents, in a very objective, matter of fact, non-threatening manner by saying, do we understand all the consequences of not making a decision? And that if you wait too long to decide, sometimes some of those options that you had are no longer on the table because you've had such a serious health problem that maybe a nursing home where you never wanted to go is the only option. So as the caregiver, thinking about any type of change in a living environment, it not only affects the place where a person lives, but it also can affect access to health care and result in a change of doctors. Parents who move to another part of town, or if they move across country, they may have to change their health insurance, change doctors they have been familiar with all their lives. Or if they do move to a care community, many times care communities have visiting doctors. So just by the fact that they've moved, they have to change doctors and get used to somebody else, and somebody else has to know about their health. And that can take some time. It can take an advocate where you as the child have to be involved in that. So anytime we change our life situation or our environment and we put ourselves in what I call shifting sands, right? Bits and pieces like start to move because of where we live or doctors or health information. This is a really big change that may not be a big deal for somebody who's 20 or 30 or 40 or 50, but when you're 80 or 85 or 90 and you don't feel good, it is a big deal. So any big decision is a big decision. And especially in caregiving, it's likely to include a lot more bits and pieces and issues that you may even know about as a caregiver, which is why not rushing and giving this some thought and coming up with really a comprehensive A to Z plan is the best plan, because what you don't want to do is make a decision and then find out, oh my gosh, why didn't we think about A or B or C? Now we have more problems than we would have had if we didn't do anything, right? And then you're regretting making a decision. This caregiving, it's complicated. It's not easy. So where do you go for help? One, elder care consultation. There's also a extensive webinar program on my website. The videos are here on YouTube. No cost. Takes you through 8 modules of caring for aging parents, whether they're in their home or moving to a care community. How do you deal with doctors? How do you hire help? How do you deal with navigating parents who refuse care, who have a lot of medical issues, insurance companies, all of that, because there is a lot to know and a lot to consider. And missing a little detail here and there can be significant. It can cause a lot of unexpected problems. And so as caregivers, you want to be as thorough as possible and try to anticipate everything that's going to come up, even though it's impossible to do that 1,000%. But it's important. And most of all, as a caregiver, you want to think very seriously about the time and the effort that you can commit, because caring for an aging parent isn't like this teeny tiny project, right? It can last a year, 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, and significantly affect your life, your health, your career, your marriage, your relationship with your children, if you have them, your friendships, your social life, your health, everything. Caregiving is a huge life change, just as needing care is a huge life change. So before you try to convince an aging loved one to totally change or alter their life, it's important to also consider the effect on your life and look at this as a whole plan that's in the best interest of everybody who's going to be involved. These are not small decisions to make. Help is on my website at PamelaDWilson.com. Please click below. Please share this video with other people you know who are looking for hope, help, and support. Thank you so much for being here. I'll see you all again soon in another video.